Every time I get ready to do an intro, I have to sneeze. I better not have to sneeze in this video. If I have to stop and sneeze, I swear for goodness. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to another Shift Talk Sunday. If you are not new here, first and foremost, welcome back. Thank you so much for rocking with your girl. Thank you so much for your support, your love, your likes. I really appreciate you. I noticed that last week I put the video up at like 3 o'clock in the morning because I was nervous that it wouldn't publish on time. So I was like, I'll just post it. And by like 5 a.m., people were already like, it had already had like 4 views. What y'all doing up at 5 a.m.? But anyway, if you are not new here, welcome back. I love you. Thank you for your support. If you are new here, I'm so happy that you found me. Leave a comment. Let me know that you're new here. And let me introduce myself to those of you who know me, to those of you who don't know me. I am Shamala Tanya. I am an author, a faith-based speaker, a Christian life coach. I'm a minister, soon to be evangelist, super excited. And basically, I can give you all the 30-second pitch, but I am really passionate about helping women find their space in life, their own unique space, without having to be like the next person or be like the next woman, without having to feel like they have to become the person that they look up to. You could take elements, but you can still lead and grow and have a unique purpose and a unique relationship with God, all while being yourself. Flawed in all. I'm really big on providing a safe space for women to come and be themselves unapologetically. And I'm also, what I've learned lately is I learned this in a photo shoot tonight, I have become super passionate about giving a safe space for women who are still growing and who are still evolving and who don't feel like they have it all together. And they need that safe space to say, I may not be you. I may not be who you think I should be, but I am 100% me. And we're going to talk about that today, like why that is a thing. Why is that even important to have? So that's me in a nutshell. These Shift Talk Sundays are your space to comment, to like, to subscribe, to listen in on, to feel like somebody gets it, somebody understands me. And eventually we're going to grow outside of YouTube and do other things, but this is where we are for now. So last week we talked a lot about, first of all, can we get into the scarf? I did a photo shoot today, and that's why you have the wing and whatnot. I actually had a red lip. But can we get into the scarf? My girl Cookie, who I don't really know, but if y'all know me, my personality, once I meet you, if we vibe, you my girl. She tied it for me, and I'm absolutely in love. Anywho, that's neither here nor there. Shout out to Cookie. But last week we talked a lot about betrayal. And it's interesting because after talking with you all about betrayal, I actually went through it. And I had to face making a decision about where certain people were going to be at in my life going forward. And what I've learned is through these shift talks, we can grow, we can evolve, and we can mature. But some things are always going to be a little difficult because, just because we've healed past things doesn't mean we're robots, and we're still going to feel, we're still going to be upset, but it doesn't absolve us from making the decision. So that was last week's. The week before last, we talked about suicide. I cried during half the video. Y'all already know I had tissue right down here below. This week, we are talking about something else that is near and dear to my heart. I don't have any notes this week. It's interesting. Every shift talk that I talk with you guys about, I'm looking for my notebook. I've gone through it. I'm never going to talk to you about something that I haven't gone through. And if I haven't gone through it, I will bring somebody on here that has gone through it. So by all means, if there's a topic that you want me to discuss, please let me know. So this week, I don't have any notes because it's something that has just been a part of my journey and a part of my life. Some things we do need to take notes on and, go through line by line, but some things just flow from you, right? And this is one of those things that really just flow. And I titled this video, She Ain't Got No Power. What do you do when you don't fit in? And when we talk about that terminology of you don't fit in, I'm not really talking about the world. I find that many of us, gotta scoop this back, y'all. I find that many of us are okay not fitting in the world. I find that many of us are okay just kind of getting through life. But I'm talking about in those places that you grew up in, those places that mean something to you, those institutions that have been a part of your journey in your life. What do you do when you feel like you never truly fit in there? And today we are going to talk about it. When I say, for me, that has often been the church world. I titled this She Ain't Got No Power because if I can tell you half of the things I have heard about myself in church, you would be floored. And I don't want to discourage someone from finding a good church home because I think that's really important. But I also think that there are some conversations that we have to have about how we've treated people in the Black church and growing up a PK and growing up in the church, and never really being able to truly leave the church. Not because I felt, not because I felt like obligated to be there, because trust me, I was out here, but because that's where my heart is. And what do you do when you feel like you don't fit in a place that your heart desires to be in? What do you do when you feel like you don't fit in an area that you feel connected to? It's such a weird conundrum, right? Like, how do you feel connected if you also feel like you don't fit in? It's a really weird conundrum. I can't really fully explain it, but I know that being a part of the church has been something that is very important to me, but also something that has been very detrimental and damaging in a lot of ways. So I guess we get into what are the ways that I've always kind of felt like I didn't fit. And I want to be very particular here. I do want to say this. I do want to give you a disclaimer like right here. If you are in leadership, if you are in church leadership and you feel like this video is going to make you angry because you don't want these conversations to be had, even though we know we have hurt people and made them leave the church and never come back, then this is probably not the video you should watch, because if you come at me, I'm going to say something back. That's first and foremost. I'm going to stand up for myself. We don't get to invalidate someone else's experience or feelings just because we've never done it, or just because we've never treated someone like that. Just because you've never done it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It doesn't mean that that person doesn't have a right to feel how they feel. I say that because I say that because I'm nervous with this video. Am I nervous? I'm not really nervous, because I'd be ready for it. I'm not really nervous. But I say that because I remember being in a church service recently, and I remember giving my account as to why I joined the church that I'm at right now. A very loving church that is very accepting and has given me the space to be myself in my truest form. But getting there was not easy. And I shared my experience of going through church hurt and things that were said to me and done to me. And somebody else then shared their experience. And it was supposed to be this empowering moment of, but where we are now, that doesn't happen. And someone got up, and I felt like the way they responded to us, he was like, I've heard a lot of people talk about church hurt. And then he basically went on to say, like, it was basically almost like we should not have said that because that's not true about the church. And it was this moment where I was like, wow, you're really upset that we said that. And I felt like this person was invalidating the experiences. And then somebody else got up and said, no matter how bad you've been hurt in church, and they talked about, God's people and, and it was just this moment of, you don't get, like, how dare you invalidate someone's experience and someone's feelings? And I understand that we all perceive things differently, but there's an overwhelming, you cannot deny the numbers. There's an overwhelming number of people who are leaving the church as a whole. And it's not necessarily because of rules and regulations and what I gotta wear and what I don't gotta wear. That's another topic. But many of them have felt pushed out because they haven't not felt accepted. An overwhelming number, a number that you cannot even deny. Are you kidding me? I'm getting mad. I'm getting angry. I'm getting angry. We calm down. But that's why, and so we wonder why churches don't grow and why other religions are growing and why New Age religions are growing. I tried New Age. The reason why I tried New Age is because I wanted to be someplace where I could breathe and be myself and not have someone telling me what to wear, how to do it. You're wearing too much makeup. You're a little too, you're a little too worldly. I had to rein it in and bring it back because I was starting to get angry all over again. You see, I'm really passionate about this. So let's go into my experience. And I find that as I've talked to a lot of different people, my experience have been other people's experience. My experience with feeling like titling she ain't got no power. What do you do when you don't fit in? Within the church, as you all see, I'm very non-traditional. I love my hoop earrings. I don't see me wear them often because but I love my hoop earrings. I love my long nails. I love makeup. I will do a beat face in a second. I have a beat face every single Sunday, and my makeup don't move because of the technique, no matter how much I cry. I love, the hair and the clothing and the glamour of it all. That's just me. I am a glamour girl. That is who I am. And also I am a woman who hates skirts. I hate skirts. Nothing angers me more than a skirt because I feel like I have to be like this super nothing angers me more than a skirt. So I hate skirts. I am the most comfortable in jeans, heels, a dope shirt, something that's well put together. I am not as loud as I used to be, interestingly. As I get older, I find that I'm not pulling back, but I don't know what it is, but I'm not as loud as I used to be. But I have known to be loud and boisterous and extremely outgoing. If you know me, I am going to say whatever I'm going to say. There is no shame in my game. I'm going to say it. I'm going to stand by what I said. I am not going to be somebody that I'm not anymore, at least, which often means that when I go into these places, I stick out like a sore thumb. Slightly, I'm bougie with a little bit of hood in me, and it comes out sometimes. Even when I'm preaching, it comes out. My bougie-ness comes out. I am what I guess it's interesting. When I go on dates and when I'm dealing with people, most people would call me elegant, classy, and refined. But in the church, I guess I'm still rough around the edges. I like protocol, but a lot of times I'm just like, what are we really doing? I'm not the one that is going to sit up straight, legs crossed, look the part. I don't care about looking the part. So a lot of times that really I care more about how I really am. I care more about reaching people. I would much rather be sitting in the crowd with my folks than sitting up front. I would much rather be talking Bible with someone in my jeans with the rips in them, in my heels, and my boots, sometimes I wear like a little snapback. I would much rather do that than be sitting somewhere tightened up in full like suits and whatnot. That's just not who I am. I have been in many places where I've been required to wear skirts. I've been required to wear the little head coverings, the little doilies. If you know me, I'm not a doily kind of person. And so I've tried to fit all these different roles that just don't work for me. And because of that, it has always come across as, and I would say also, I think the other part of it is also like, I believe that at any given point in time, you will hear me quote Nicki Minaj. You will hear me quote Cardi B. You will hear me quote Beyonce. You will hear me quote somebody. You know what I mean? I still know Jay-Z rap lyrics, and I will still bump them joints. I still live by difficult takes a day, impossible takes a week. And that's just who I am. But I have found that in a lot of traditional churches, I have been considered worldly and not modest, and just all these different things. And it's been difficult over the years because when I wasn't aware of who I am and who I was, I found myself trying to fit all these different roles and perfectly look the part. And the reality is none of us are perfect, especially not me. Like, and making sure there's no run in my stockings. This gonna be a run. I'm gonna run them joints when I put them on. In all honesty, like, let's be real about it. I'm gonna put a run in them stockings when I put them on. I usually buy two for that very reason. Okay, and if I don't run them up, then they're not gonna make it through the service. Let's be honest. If I gotta wear white, the white is going to get stained some kind of way. I don't know how. That's just what it is. That's just Shamar Latanya, But I have found myself trying to fit these roles. Every role, I have found myself, pulling back on the makeup. I have found myself, now I do it because I care more about skincare as I'm getting older, but I found myself wearing the skirts, and I know I hate them. I know that's not me. I found myself wearing the doilies, and I remember one time somebody asked me if they wanted me to have them buy me more doilies, and I was like, I don't even want to wear the one I have. I have found myself trying to use the same language. I've found myself trying to, sit here and do this. And I found myself trying to fill all these roles, and it's so exhausting. And I think what's worse is no matter how much I tried to find myself filling those roles, there were still times where I would get these looks. I remember distinctly one time being in front of a church, waiting to go in, and I'm wearing my suit, and this woman comes up to me, and I lie to you not, and she was one of the ones helping one of the main preachers, and I lie to you not, she come up to me and she goes, like, and I was just like, what? I'm literally just standing here. Are we serious right now? It doesn't hurt. It just makes me angry. Because then I think about the women who are a lot like me, who don't fit those molds, who are rough around the edges, who still might fight in a second, who still have clapbacks. I know I haven't really been delivered from the spirit of clapback just yet. Who don't walk around and don't look perfect and don't look like they have it all together. You know what I mean? And I have often found myself thinking, man, I'm just a mess. The heels aren't right. Stockings gotta run in them. My suit is two different shades of black because I don't really care. I don't want to wear it in the first place. And I remember just a few times just looking around thinking like, wow, this is interesting. I'm really working hard to fit this box. I've had things said to me such as, God can't use you when you're that loud, or God can't, if, in order to be really powerful as an intercessor or as a prayer warrior, as an altar worker, you have to be more pulled back. Because if you're always in the mix, if you're always loud and always social and always outgoing, how are you able to hear God speak? As if I can't be social and outgoing and then go have a prayer time later. Like, what? Come on now. And I've heard these things said to me, because, and interestingly, it was more so because of the outward. You can't be in the world and in church. What does that mean? I know what it means, but let's really break that down. If you're talking to me because you don't like what you see, so what do you do when you're in these situations? And I have spoken to so many different people who have felt the same way. They just felt like they weren't accepted because they didn't look the part. They didn't play the role. And I say the word role because it's almost like there's this language that you're expected to have. And I understand that not every church is like this. I do feel like a lot of churches are starting to get better at this, but I think it's been a long time coming. A very long time coming, when you won't do what everyone else does, when you are just your own person. It's an interesting experience. So I found myself like church hopping, going to different churches, being comfortable sitting in the back. Hopefully no one notices me. Hopefully no one talks to me. I can just come, worship God in my own way, and then go home without people looking me up and down because my skirt may be an inch above my knee, but not realizing that was all I could afford. that won't talk about me because I made a mistake in the pulpit. I read the wrong scripture, or they felt like I was, too whatever. One time I got there, I was like, yo, when God shifts you, it's raggedy. And I was like, it's ghetto here. I said that in the pulpit. And I know that that doesn't sit well with a lot of traditionalists. Okay. But I know that there are women out there who totally get it and understand. And that's who I'm going for. So, I'm hearing all these things being said about me. God can't use her. What does she really have to say? How powerful is she really? And it made me feel like maybe I'm not as powerful. So I stopped trying. I stopped trying to tap in. I stopped trying to live my purpose. I was like, I will just live life and just go to church and go home. Unfortunately, or I should say fortunately, if you are blessed to have an anointing, no matter what people say, if you are blessed to be in a position to help people, if you are blessed to have an anointing that will help people find themselves and find their unique purpose, if you are blessed to be unique enough to where God will not let you sit in the back and will not let you sit down, trying to go to church and come home will not work. And it has not worked. Not for me anyway. So how do I find myself getting past these spaces of, all right, I am who I am and I'm not fitting in here, so what do I do? It's a gut-wrenching experience. It's a gut-wrenching feeling when you feel like you love this thing, but this thing doesn't love you. You want to be a part of this thing, but this thing doesn't love you. Doesn't want you. You have these great ideas how to reach people, but it's not what it's not what we normally do. The other part of feeling like I don't fit in or I didn't fit in was I tend to think outside the box. Y'all know I hate boxes. I want to break these boxes down left and right. And what do you do when you feel like you want to break the box down and be different? Because I really feel like we've been called to be different, but nobody wants you to do that because it's not tradition. What do you do when you're expected to sit at the same table that you fully believe Jesus would have flipped over? We're going to get into what we do. I'm going to tell you what it is that I did, because if there is anything that I can get, that I want you to get from this, is there is a space for you. There is a place for you. And the biggest thing is, we are not God. We are representatives. We are children of, but we are not God. So we don't get to walk around and say who has power, who doesn't, who's anointed, and who's not, based on what we see and based on how we think they should be dressing or acting or living or doing. Like, no. We are not the ultimate God. What I have learned over the past few weeks is God can use whoever he wants. However he wants. Whether you like it or not. Whether you agree or not. God can and will. Even if it's you who is rough around the edges, who's might be bougie, who could be 100% hood, who will throw in a rap lyric and connect it with a scripture real quick. God can use you at the same time. So I don't think these are shift talk points, but I do want to get into how I found myself getting to the point where I am fearfully and wonderfully made in understanding that, and uniquely used by God to understand that. So we are going to get into that. That's not shift talk points. I don't want this video to be long, but I do want to tell you what it is that I did for myself. Okay. All right, cool. All right. Now I'll start playing my little notes. But what did I start doing to really connect with being myself and understanding that, yes, I do have an anointing. Yes, I do have power. Yes, God will use me. I started to look at women in the Bible. I didn't compare myself and say, oh, I'm like Deborah, or I'm like this person. I did not do that because I am who I am. But what I did was draw inspiration for these women. I look at women like Deborah, who was a judge in Israel. And at that time, a judge in Israel led everything. The community went to her for advice. The community went to her for spiritual leadership. And she was a woman. And it does not say that she had to change herself. She was who she was, and God used her as she was. You have these little known women like Jael, who when the nation was at war, the king comes to sleep in her tent and she drives a stake through. She drives a stake through him, and she brings victory to her people. A woman that was literally just being herself in this space, and the opportunity showed for God to use her. Now, granted, war is war. That is a little aggressive, but this is the Old Testament days. It was aggressive out here in these streets, right? But the point is, she was literally doing what she normally would do as a woman. You think about people like Esther, and the argument could be made that Esther went through a change before she even got to see the king. But that was a change that was ordained for her. That was a part of her journey. It was not you could say that it was forced, because as she was chosen, she had to go through a 12-month treatment. But it was still a part of her journey. And when she got into the king's court, when the conspiracy happened to kill all the Jews in Persia, when she got into the king's court, it wasn't necessarily that change that she went through. It was who she was to her core. The king found favor. She had favor. The king was like, baby, what you want? You want half the kingdom? I'll give it to you. Whatever you want, I'm going to give it. Where they get that at? Off Amazon? But Esther had like favor. Like, I'm looking for that kind of favor. And when it came time, and I hope this does not stop. Okay. When it came time for her to go in front of the king and make this plea for her people, it was who she was to her core that made the difference. No matter what change she went through, God used the core of who she is. Yes, you're the queen, but you are who you are. And I'm going to need that when it's time for you to fulfill your purpose. And we can get into, a lot of the New Testament women. We have Lydia, who was a businesswoman. And it doesn't say anything about her having to change who she was or fit these standards. And as it is, at that time, women already had their own standards to fall under anyway. But these women were who they were, and they led, and they owned businesses. And I think the biggest example that I could have, and I'm definitely looking at my notes, and I wrote a blog post about this a while ago, were the daughters of Zelophehad. These women in the Old Testament, and it's like one chapter, but it changed the course of a nation. These daughters, Zelophehad had no sons, and back in the day, if you didn't have a son, then your inheritance was split amongst the camp. Like, who cares if you had daughters? The daughters got nothing. And these daughters, instead of going with the flow, they questioned. They stood up for themselves. They were bold. Why do we lose our father's inheritance because he had no sons? Give us our father's land so that we can split it. And it was definitely not I was thinking, or maybe we could. These women went in boldly, and they made their case, and they stood their ground respectfully at that. And Moses, that leads Moses to go in and pray on it. And God honors their request and says to Moses, give them their father's land. And going forward, let's change the rules. If a man doesn't have a son, it'll go to his daughters. And that changed the course of history, all because these women didn't fall under the standards that everyone thought they should have. When you're a woman, you don't say anything. You don't get anything. You get married off, and that's that. They were like, nah, not today. This is what we're not going to do, and this is what we is going to do. So I'm going to let you pray on it. You let us know. And I started to look at women like that, and I'm like, you know what? Hold on. I'm not that abnormal. I see myself in all of these women. I am not that abnormal. And as I think about my growth, wow, why am I feeling this emotional in my heart? I'm not going to cry today, but I'm feeling it. As I think about how I've grown, I think about the purification process that God has put me through, and how I have grown, or how I've changed. But it's still who I am to my core that reaches the women that need it. And that's on period. So I started to find that who I am is not that unreasonable. It's not that unusable. It's not unusable. I'm not without power, because if I was supposed to have no power, I wouldn't be here. And then I started to look at, I started to just look at all these different scriptures about what God feels about me as a woman, the apple of God's eye, fearfully and wonderfully made. Fearfully meaning, in the biblical term, made with a high level of respect and wonder. You mean to tell me if I am fearfully and wonderfully made, and all of his works are well, including me, you going to tell me that I'm not usable because I don't fit the standard let's use plain language. I don't fit the standard of what a church woman should be doing and saying and wearing, because my skirt might be a little bit above the knee, because that's all I could afford. So the next part I would ask you to think about, and now we're getting into our shift talk points. What do you do? You can leave. Sure, there are a ton of women who leave the church daily and go find themselves in other places. Do you? And that's not something that I can argue against either, nor will I. Everyone should have the ability to go off and find themselves. But what about the women who keep coming back? This is what your draw is. This is where your heart is. And I know some of you, and I hear some of you thinking, oh, because you're brainwashed. Baby, baby. I done flipped a few tables over in church. I done asked a couple questions. I done rocked a few boats. Brainwashing it. This is where my heart lies. And this is why I stay. I love walking into this building and seeing other women and them running up to me and me hugging them. And yes, you can do that anywhere. But this is where my heart lies. Respectfully. Okay? Respectfully. So let's get into our shift talk points. And I think you can use this anywhere. What do you do when you don't feel like you are fitting into this space that you love, and this space that you feel like you are called to at that? What do you do when you feel like you're not fitting into the space that you feel like you are called to? That is like, I know you called me here, God, but I'm not really fitting up in here. That is how I feel about me in church. I know I'm called, but I'm not really feeling like I'm fitting in. What do you do? How do you handle it? Let's get into our shift talk points in 3, 2, 1. Period. All right, so shift talk point number 1. The first and foremost, you have got to find your own personal relationship with God. Your own. It is not anyone else's duty or business what happens between you and God. Every person has to work out their own salvation. Meaning, I'm not going to, what is the word that I am looking for? I'm not going to police you and your relationship with God, because I got my own to deal with. Okay, like, I'm trying to get my own spot. I'm trying to keep my own spot in heaven. It's been a tough few years for me. And let's be honest, if Shemala time you get past them gates, baby, we gonna be like, shoo, because I was out here. So I already, like, I'm already fighting for my own spot. Feel me? I use the wrong words. We don't really fight for these spots. When you make that change, it becomes a part of who you are. Okay, but that's just my language. Whatever. But you have your own personal relationship with God. I cannot stress that enough. You get to the point where it is you and God, and you feel God within your soul and within your spirit. And I was telling a good friend of mine tonight, that we always look for these big signs and these big things. And we look at Elijah in the cave when he was running and he was depressed. You know, there were all these major signs on that mountain. Earthquakes, thunder, lightning. But God wasn't in any of that. It was the still small voice where he found God. And it's that still small voice within you that you got to learn to tap into and trust. And that's God speaking to you. And for those of you in the church who are watching this, if you are going to say, well, not if they live it a certain way, get out of this video. Get out. This ain't the video for you. Go on somewhere and deal with somebody else, because this ain't the one. This ain't the one right here. God is not as judgmental as y'all are trying to make him. Go on somewhere and sit down. This ain't the video. Get. Okay? Because if God did not desire a relationship with you, then you would not be here. But you are here for a purpose and for a reason. And finding your own relationship with God is what's going to keep you grounded. Nowadays, me and God to be like this. We're like this, okay? And you can't tell me the Spirit of God is not in me. So when people look at me sideways, and people look at me up and down, that story I told you about that woman that, like, literally looked me up and down, that wasn't nothing but that was like 7 months ago. Okay? And I still, not 7 months ago, where are we? Where we at, y'all? We in March. That was like sometime in November, December, between November and December of 2021. So that was recent. Had it been a few years ago, I would have looked at everything. I'm like, oh my God, is something wrong with me? What's going on? This time I was like, okay. Gotta thank God that God doesn't look at me the way that half of y'all do, because I'd be in trouble if God treat me or thought about me the way half y'all think about me. So find your own relationship with God. Develop your own relationship with God. And that comes by prayer. That comes by getting in the Word. That comes by surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded. And I said surround yourself with people that are like-minded. Sometimes it may take you a while to find a church home. Some of you may not. Some of you may feel more comfortable online. Some of you may feel, and that's fine too. I think that we are in a tiny day and age where there are many ways to find God. Okay? I just know what I know. Somebody like me that has a tendency to wild out, I gotta be in a building somewhere, okay? But you develop your own relationship with God by getting into prayer. When I say getting into prayer, you do not have to use, Jesus once said, you don't have to use these lofty words. That's what people who want to be looked at, they use those words. That's literally what Jesus said. People that want to be looked at, that want to acknowledge, they'll use those lofty words. Get simple with it. Talk to God with it. Yo, me and God be talking just like this. I be like, God, now you know that situation about to have me real lit, right? Like, I'm gonna need you to work with me, God, because I'm about to go in. I'm trying not to go in. I'm trying to live for you guys. So I'm gonna need you to work with me. That's how me and God talk, like, all the time. Okay, guys, so like I got this opportunity in front of me and I don't want to do this without you, right? I don't want to do this in my own power. And I know that you've given me the power to do it. So like, God, can you like lead me to where to go? Like what I'm supposed to do with this? Can you give me like a dream or something? Like, can you talk to me real quick? Like, tell me what I'm supposed to do, okay? Because I want to do this right. It's time me and God talk. Somebody somewhere is going to have an issue with that. Somebody somewhere can go sit down. But it's not that difficult as we make it. That's why Jesus said, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. We men, humans, I should say, make it heavy. Secondly, I would encourage you to really start digging into the women that God have used biblically and historically to change the world. Imperfect people. Imperfect, flawed individuals that God still saw fit to use. There is nothing, neither height nor depth, that will separate you from the love of God. That is not my word. That's in the good book. That's in the good book. So stop thinking that because you have these flaws or because you struggle or because you're going back and forth with something that you're not of use. Many of you know my struggles with alcohol. I struggle with alcohol. I think I relapsed. I haven't relapsed in quite a while. But I definitely relapsed before becoming a minister. Like, I'm on the journey to becoming a minister. And I relapsed. Haven't relapsed since. But you can't tell me God doesn't use flawed people, because he does, because I am. My pastor preached a message one time, and he said that when that woman was caught in adultery, and they wanted to stone her, and Jesus said, "He who was without sin cast the first stone. My, how we have forgotten," and nobody could do it. And he wrote something on the ground, and we don't know what that word was, but that woman does, and she carried on. Though that word is going to look different for each of us. My pastor had told me, the word for you is continue. The word for some of you is going to be continue. The word for some of you is going to be, or the phrase could be, don't quit. The word for some of you could be still loved, still useful, still purpose. But I would encourage you to really do your research. And I would also encourage you to start looking at scriptures that speak to the heart of a woman and about how God loves you uniquely. So those are the first two things I did. I developed my own relationship with God. I started doing my own research. I got into my word. I started, me and Google and the Bible was like this. Me, Google, the Bible, and my little notepad. We were all like this, just researching and studying. And I was like, hold on. God can absolutely use me. And then the next shift talk point, so that was shift talk point number 2. I be forgetting these points, y'all. Not the points, but I just like to go. Shift talk point number 3 is I encourage you to find the unique ways God has already used you. Some of you have been used to speak a word into somebody's life that is what they needed at the moment. What are the unique ways that God has used you? What are your unique qualities that are lovable? We focus so much on what we do wrong and what we don't do right that we don't focus on the things that are good about us. And the next shift talk point, the last shift talk point, developing your own personal relationship with God, researching who God has used, all flawed, imperfect people. Read Matthew chapter 1. You'll see a list of flawed people that led to perfection. Start finding those unique qualities about you and falling in love with them instead of always putting out the bad in yourself. The fourth one I would say, is this number 5, whatever. The fourth one I would say, continue on this journey. If you don't find your purpose will find you. Just by you being authentic, walking with integrity, being honest, connecting with God without the voice of somebody else telling you what to do, how to do it, whatever you should be doing this, you should be doing that, you should be praying like this, you should be praying like that. Child, it's you and God. And don't give up on your journey. I thank God that I didn't give up on the journey. I thank God that I didn't quit. Because, boy, I tell you, I am in love with who God has made me to be. I gotta wear stockings in the morning. They probably gonna have a run in them. And I'm gonna get up there and do me with the run in my stockings and know that don't take it any way away from me. I'm gonna make a mistake. If I don't make a mistake tomorrow, I'll make a mistake by Monday. I might be ready to fight somebody by Tuesday. I might clap back by Wednesday. And I'm going to come back from all of it and still continue on. The last shift talk point I will leave you with is this. It's not supposed to be this difficult. We have made it difficult. Rules, regulations, standards, opinions. I feel like you should be, how you should say, talk, do. We've made it difficult. It's not even supposed to be this difficult, bruh. Jesus didn't go into all that. Literally, come to me, all you who are weary, and I will give you rest. Find the rest between you and God. Ooh, that was good. And when you find the rest between you and God, that's where you will find you. That's where you will find your uniqueness. That's where you will find your purpose. That's where you will find your voice. And that's where you will most importantly find your strength to use it. Because God will place you in opportunities and in situations to use it. It's not supposed to be this heart-wrenching. It's not supposed to be this. It's not supposed to bring your confidence down. We are called to approach the throne of grace boldly. And some of you are going to say, well, it depends on how you're living. Yeah, it depends on how you're living. I would ask yourself that question. Yeah, it depends on how you're living, how you living. You better be able to tell me that you're perfect. If you don't tell me that you're perfect, don't you talk about nobody else out here and how they approach God and how they go to God. So, those are your Shift Talk points. Let's get into the Shift Talk Weekly Challenge. Let's get into how we're going to grow past this. Let's get into how I want you to do. And I'm telling you right now, once again, you're going to need a journal and something cute to write with. I'm gonna give you the plug to my girl Jazz. She's got a really great journal that she has, but I'm gonna give you the plug. You're gonna need a journal. Shift Talk Weekly Challenge. Let's. All right, so Shift Talk Weekly Challenge. You can use really any journal that you would have. I am a big fan of finding journals that fit my aesthetic, and pens that fit my aesthetic. My girl Coach Jazz has an I Choose Me journal, though I believe that hers is guided. A good journal nonetheless to help you find who you are and align with that. So that's a good option for you. But the legwork that I would like for you to do this week would be to, and I said that I made a point of this in my Shift Talk point. And by the way, one other point that I forgot to mention, and I did not have it written down, is to not give a care about what other people think about you, about who rocks with you, about who does not rock with you, who talks with you, who does not talk with you, and what they feel about you. Because really they should be feeling that way about themselves. Not that way, but like they should be worried about themselves and what they doing, not what about you doing. Okay? But now let's get into our weekly challenge. Okay, so the legwork that I want you to do, and I said this already, we tend to focus on our faults and what we could do, what we don't do well. We tend to focus on our weaknesses. We do not focus enough on our strengths. So I would encourage you and challenge you to do the legwork of actively pointing out your strengths, what you do well. And a lot of times we look at our uniqueness and we don't see it as something that is usable, or we don't see it as anything that is important. I want to challenge you to really rethink that this week. I want to challenge that thinking that, oh, this is just who I am, I'm unique, and that's that. I want you to go a step further. Why do you feel like God made you to be that unique? Why do you feel like God gave you these unique qualities? For what purpose? Yes, it could be just because this is just how you made, but who else out there is like you that could benefit from you standing in your truth and you standing in your power? So let's go beyond, oh, this is just who, I'm just unique like this. How do you use that? How do you grow that? How is that special? And I pray that you find those special parts about you that no one else has, that you may have thought is a burden, but it's now your superpower. I am a mess a lot of days. And a lot of days, I be on point with it. But what I used to feel as a weakness of admitting that I'm a mess most days has become my greatest strength. Because women like you who are watching this understand that if Shamar can admit that she's a mess some most days and can still get up here and do this and be consistent and reach other women, then what can I do? I'm telling you everything. Whatever you are purposed to do. So that is your Shift Talk Weekly Challenge. I hope that this reached you. I hope that this hit you to your soul. I hope that you gain some strength to get up and be who you are. There's a TikTok song was like, stand up. I hope that this gave you the strength to stand up in your power and in your uniqueness. And really at the end of it all, that was a horrible pop. At the end of it all, you know what? I give. At the end of it all, who really cares? At the end of it all, if you're seeking to please man, that's the wrong thing to do, baby, because we are fickle. You please God first and then you go forward. And if God is pleased, the rest of y'all can go somewhere. And that's point blank and period. If God is pleased with me and proud of me, the rest of y'all can just go. You can kick rocks with no socks and flip-flops because God is proud of me and that's all that matters. So, until next week, thank you for joining me on this Shift Talk Sunday. I love you all. I hope you all enjoyed the challenge. Go check out my girl Jazz's journal. And don't be afraid of facing those unique parts of yourself and doing the legwork of this is why I'm special. And it can be used this way. All right. So comment, like, subscribe, share this out. And I will see you all next week.